do my thing. I thought this was ours. Oh, sorry, that's right. Yeah, I do start it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board Game Gateway podcast, a place for your entry into the world of tabletop gaming, board games, and fun times. Is that a better motif than last week?
I like that. That's a good one.
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I know you weren't.
Accepted.
That's all right.
I explain a board game. That's the first thing I hear.
I know, sorry, I tuned out immediately.
You lost me after dice game. What the hell's that?
Where am I again?
Anyway, well, if this is the first time that you're listening to the podcast, my name is Neva and I'm your host. I'm joined this evening by Blake.
Yep.
Ralph.
Hello.
And Matt.
Yep.
Mr. Giggle.
That's right.
And we are...
Blake, yep. That's just the best response you're going to give us. No, not Blake.
And we're here to talk to you about board games, why we love them, and hopefully give you an entry point into this hobby. We have just finished playing a game. We decided to change up the order and things this week, whereas last week in our first initial episode we were kind of feeling things out and we didn't really know what we were kind of going to do, and we talked about some gateway games at the end and we felt kind of rushed, so we decided at the end, why don't we actually play a game before we record the podcast? Yes. And we did that tonight. So we actually played a game which we believe is a really great well, at least I believe is a really great gateway game. The other three boys hadn't played the game until tonight, so they'll give you their thoughts and... I was about to say thoughts and prayers. I don't know, that's not a good way to talk to about a board game. But that game was Ganz Schon Clever, or That's Pretty Clever in English. And look, we're gonna just start the podcast and we're gonna talk about this game because we all kind of coming out the end of it. I think we're all kind of a bit eager to talk about this game and what just went down. It was pretty dang cool. And for those of you who don't know, I'll give the rundown of this because I've played this game a lot of times now. But Ganz Schon Clever is essentially, as Matt put it, sexy Yahtzee. That was kind of what he named it as. But essentially is rolling. It's multiplayer Yahtzee. Even though Yahtzee is multiplayer, but it has a lot more decisions, a lot more comboing, and a very tighter decision space. So I'll open the floor to you guys because I've played it before. But what do you think of the game?
Loved it.
I loved it. Yeah, it was really a lot of fun. Really colourful, engages you very quickly, and it's just simple. You just jump straight into it.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I'm colorblind and struggle with some games, but all the colors on these little like print and play or roll and write sheets you get, they're all really vibrant, and there's a lot of nice little pictures in color to actually look at, which is really awesome.
Yeah. So I'll just give
the actual
art.
Yeah, what are these things called? I won't say pictographs, but
icons.
The iconographies. That's it. The icons are really easy to follow.
Yeah. That's
one of the things like for any game, especially gateway games. If it's, I reckon after about a dozen different symbols, most people would tune out. Yeah. Unless you're a serious gamer, and even that's probably far too much for a lot of people.
Like I've played a lot of Rollin rights, and they're not necessarily gateway Rollin rights, but I loved how simple this was, yet still having that crunchy combo thing.
Yeah. I reckon like this would be a game that you could play with your mum and she would enjoy. Because there's enough old world game that she'll be comfortable with a couple of new ideas that she'd also cope with,
I think I'll explain just a bit how the game works as well,
Definitely,
just so everyone kind of understands what the game is. So the game presents you with 6 different dice, and all of them are different colours: blue, yellow, orange, purple, green, and white. And essentially the game asks you to roll the 6 dice and pick one. And then you do this 3 times, similar to exactly what you would do in Yahtzee, and then you resolve the action according to the colour. So there are 5 different areas, each associated with the different colors, and the 6 dice, which is the white dice, is your wild dice, so it can go in any of the 6 areas. But each of those areas have got different things that you can do, such as the yellow area is like a bingo sort of thing where you need to get columns and rows completed. The blue area is you're taking the sum of the blue and the white dice. The green one is you always have to increment the dice number and then it resets. The orange one is kind of just take the point value, and the purple one is kind of the more confusing one, which is every dice number must be higher than the last one, but if you can get a 6, it resets, so you can go from 6 to a 1, but you can't go from a 3 to a 6. And where this game really shines, which is that you have an active player who gets to take these dice and takes the 3 of the dice, but where the twist comes in is that if I take the number 3 purple dice, if there are dice that are valued under that 3, so let's just say, for example, a 2 yellow and a blue 2, those dice then go into the dice pool for all of the other players to use at the end of your turn. So whatever you take directly affects the dice that the other people are going to pick. And so that's where this game becomes really good, because whereas Yahtzee is not really multiplayer, it's kind of multiplayer solitaire, because what you do doesn't affect the other person. It's just I have a turn, then you have a turn, then you have a turn, then you have a turn, and at the end we just see who got the most lucky with rolling the dice. But here in Ganz Schon Clever, what ends up happening is whatever dice that I pick directly affects what you guys can take. And Blake, you did that early on in the game where you specifically left us with one really crappy, like orange 1 or green 1 or something like that as well.
That's it. It gives you that decision of, do I want to take this, which is technically more beneficial for me, but if I take this opposite route, which still helps me, but it sort of starts to hinder everyone else. You know what I mean?
It's not like cutthroat, right? It's kind of that stepping stone after a single player yet multiplayer game like Yahtzee actually is. But you could still play this as almost a single player in a group setting, right?
Yeah,
like your actions don't necessarily affect everyone else's. I mean, they do in the sense that you get less to choose from, but you don't have to play it against the other player.
No,
you just
and
play
that's-
it to yourself and then let the board decide what
And
happens.
that's what Nee was sort of saying. It was saying when I was making that decision, you know, although you can technically block us here, it's not necessarily always the best way to play it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
not the best move for you.
Exactly. You want to work on your own combos, and that's what starts flowing through as you start having a few rolls. You start, oh, if I get this, oh, now I can cross off a yellow one. Oh, now I get an extra roll, you know. You start seeing it all pieced together just a few rolls in.
And like, there is that sort of high you get when you only have like 2 rerolls, and you're like, I really want to get that yellow 6 right now or something, and you're constantly like, oh, I got one more, should I push it again? And so there's a bit of that. It's luck, but it's also exciting luck in a game, which is something I really enjoy in board games where you know you're
But
chasing
also,
that high.
We're all on the same playing field.
Yeah,
straight
we
away,
are.
right?
We are. Yeah.
And sorry to bring in another game, but that political game we played last week,
Corridors
of Power.
So for those of you listening, if you heard us talk about Corridors of Power, we finished recording the podcast and went, you want to play it? And we all did. So
we all did.
We immediately
and then all of a
played
sudden one of us just suddenly realised, no, I don't want to play this anymore.
it. I don't know who that was.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can guess who that is.
No, I can't remember, really. It's a bit foggy.
But in comparison to this, right, I think, because I was thinking about it during the week, you know, every day, stewing over it, back and forth at my home.
Waking up in a pool of your own
Yeah,
sweat.
that's right. Get that fucking around.
The greens.
Last thing I do. Sure. But like, straight away, the cards had fucked me over.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because of what I'd gotten, it was because of what everyone else had gotten, right? I didn't even have
Yeah.
an ally out in the real world. And so I think that affected how I enjoyed the game, right? I also came into it thinking, this is a political game. I'm going to play it politically. And it's not. It's not a role-playing game at all.
It's actually a negotiation game with a little bit of actually deception.
Yeah, even
Yes.
that's more deception, I'd say,
Yeah.
than anything else.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of games of that. As the only game I've seen where 3 of the players got the exact same constituents, and Matt was the only one that just completely different from the rest of the
To give you an idea of like
players.
ending scoring, it was like Ralph and Blake ended on 36, I was on 34, and then Matt was on 18 or something like that. Like it was really close.
Did I even
between...
get to double digits?
No,
Yeah,
I
you
don't
did.
know.
You did. You were there. But yeah, look, I want to circle back though what you guys talked about, which is that this game is actually a bit. You are right, which is it is single player with it's non-confrontational multiplayer. So what I do does, like for those of you listening, so we should also mention that a roll and write specifically, which we talked about, if you don't know what that is, it's simply you roll some dice and you write down the according thing. So Yahtzee is obviously the most prevalent example of what a roll and write is. You roll the dice and then you write down something. It's like kind of the original roll and write, if you will. But with this one, what I do though does, and we mentioned that you don't want to directly try and screw over everyone because, you know, if you don't take the 6, that really helps you more than it helps your opponent by giving them the dice. But there is that push and pull though, which is that if I know towards the end game that you're going very heavily for something, maybe I don't take that, even if it means it's maybe a suboptimal move. But I mean, from a gateway game perspective, I mean, I really think this is a game, as you said, you can put in front of anyone who you go, hey, have you heard of Yahtzee? Yeah, well, let's play this. Because they instantly will know. You'll look at the score sheet, and it does look a bit confronting because there's numbers everywhere and stuff. But I think as soon as you explain, look, let's just worry about one thing at a time. Like, yellow only can go into yellow. Blue can only go into blue. And as soon as you understand that, you're like, oh... This is pretty good.
If you had to judge a game by how long it takes me to describe the rules, that's a pretty good game, right?
Definitely.
Yeah,
We were playing it within 10 minutes of him starting the conversation.
Yeah, like we're all experienced gamers, so I even think like a non-experienced gamer is still really good as a gateway game because you can literally show them your first turn and they'll kind of get what to do on their turn anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, the total play time, including the teach for this, at 4 players was just over an hour, like an hour and 3 minutes. So they're less than an hour for a 4-player game. And I can tell you from previous experience, if you play this at 2 players, you knock out a game in 20 minutes. And you guys immediately went and downloaded the game on your phone and iPads. Like, Matt's got it open in his iPad right now. So he was like looking at the game and whatnot. But like, you can play this game solo though. This is a very easy game you can whip up on your phone and just play it on, as you said, Ralph, you're going to play it on the train.
Has it play solo? Because like it's kind of got that. There's a game called Azul, like where you pick a tile and then all the other tiles are up to the other players to grab. So this has a similar type mechanic. How's that really play when you're playing solo?
So when you play solo in this game, you don't worry about whatever the secondary dice are. So what makes this game really good is the fact that we kind of mentioned that you do get to combo. You can combo your actions. So, you know, if I complete a row in the yellow row, that means I can cross off a free blue, which also meant I finished a row there, which means I can do another purple, which means, I can now do a green because I did that. And you can start to see where the combos happen. But in the solo player game, the only thing, it doesn't matter. It's the exact same game. It just means that it's just beating your best high score. I think Georgie, I think one of her big things is she was pushing 300 at one point. She was like, because in a 4-player game, you get 16 turns, 4 as the active, and then the other 12 as the secondary.
Passive turns.
Yeah, but as a solo player, you get six times 3, so whatever that is, 18 turns.
How do you keep track of like the times 3 sort of thing? Is there like
the times 3?
Yeah, so like you're in round 1 and you know.
Oh well, it's just like you roll the dice, then you just take a dice, mark it, take the next dice, mark it, take the next dice and mark it, and then you just go to round 2.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's literally I understand.
You're just always the active player, so it's kind of it's a bit all over. It actually works pretty well, to be honest, and you'll see when you play it. And
I think it will. Yeah.
But look, this is also a pretty interesting discussion though, because like that's really what the game is. I mean, the other thing as well, though, is that towards the end of the game, you guys started to feel that this, even though it's just rolling dice, there is actually a decision space here that really started making you guys feel a bit tense. Like, you were like, there is actually some choices to be made here. It's also, Matt, you mentioned the push your luck aspect of, like, do I take this now or do I re-roll for another thing?
There was an interesting bit when we got to round 4, and like I've been watching, everyone's making these combos, especially Blake, who's always a gun at the strategy. We got to round 4 and I got the free 6 or whatever I wanted, and I think I had a 6-move combo, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if that stuck in someone's craw going, well, I've worked all my numbers to get to the right point. Matt gets a free number, and he just, like, it's almost a leveler if you can play it that way as well. So once again, it's not a competition that is cutthroat. It's just it's a game where you're not leaving your opponents with no options. You're just leaving them with less favourable options if you have that control.
Yeah.
But it was tense towards the end though. Everyone was sitting there going, oh, you were actually thinking, do I take this right now and try to work out your combo that's coming up, or do I then push my luck and take my re-roll here?
It's interesting in the playtime, like the first round was us learning the game, 2 quick rounds, and a third round of, I've got to slow this down and make sure I get this right now because I'm running out of time.
I felt that too.
But what I liked about the decision making in this game, and a lot of people start hearing when, I know that I did with board games, you start hearing people talk about combos and planning ahead, and then people start to sort of tune out and go, I don't know if I can do that. I think half of the combos I was pulling in this game, I'd cross one off and go, oh wait, no, then I can get, and then I can, and I was sort of working out the combos as I was doing it, which was a nice little, it's like you unwrapping a present on Christmas morning. You surprise after every cross.
So like the combo is like you opening up a PlayStation game. You're like, oh, that means there's a console under the tree, isn't there? You know, it's kind of like that.
This opens up a really interesting thing though to have a chat about, which is the theme of today's episode, which we're going to be talking about and bringing everything back in. So we wanted to kind of say, what makes a good gateway game is the first thing, but also then we'll also have a bit of a chat about what do games mean to us as part of that. But the overarching theme of what makes a good gateway game, which is, we're starting to see what that is in this game. I think it's, for me, what makes a good gateway game, and I know we're kind of transitioning away from Ganz Schon Clever, but we'll keep bringing it back to this because there's a couple of things, but the big thing for me is discovery. Mm-hmm. Because when you mentioned, Blake, I can't, when I say comboing, and I start throwing out terms that are not, roll dice, move my car to free parking, people start to go, how do I do this? Yeah. But what I think is really good about Ganz Schon Clever is you guys, even that you are gamers, but this would be the same as everyone, which is that once I explained the first section and I went, oh, okay, and that symbol means if you finish that row, you get a blue X. It means you get a free blue cross. And then Blake or Matt, one of you asked, so if I cross the yellow, that means I get a free yellow X. And if I cross the 4, that means I put an orange 4 in that row. And you ask the question, like, without me even having to explain it, the iconography in this game is actually really good for that. But you discovered, there's actually combos in here that allow me to go to, if I can do this, then I can do that.
Combo is probably the wrong word, because it's not a combo. It's a cascading thing.
It's a domino. It's a domino.
That's right.
Form.
Yeah, domino.
So you don't kind of set it up. You can if you played it smart, but because you're relying on the dice, you really are at someone else's mercy, even your own mercy. It's not even.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in charge of it.
Exactly. You don't have to take any extra action to cause them. It's just through the natural playing of the game. You'll start to cross, and then you cross that. Then I get this, and it just happens naturally rather than you have to set something up or take extra or do something different or out there to make it happen.
So just on like what makes a good gateway game, this one's a fantastic one because you're right, Nee, it's just about the discovery of it for new players. So new players, when they see a 6 is rolled that's green, they might take it and they go, hang on, I get a blue X, that's amazing. And then they cross out that blue X and go, that means I get a yellow X, that's amazing. So like this game's a fantastic one. And I've got a similar roller that's called Fleet, the dice game, which is about catching fish, and it's probably just a bit of a step higher than this game, but it's got a similar feel. I played that with a cousin of mine who's a teenager, and she's just sort of discovering these games herself, but she's like, oh, okay, I get a coin. Oh, hang on, that means I get to launch a boat. Oh, hang on, that means I get to get a fish. And she was really enjoying discovering these things. Yep. So that was really cool to see. So yeah, I love showing games like this.
Look, I played Fleet. You brought it to GugaCon earlier in the year, and you said you want to play, and I sat down and went, yeah, sure, why not? I've heard about it. I sat down and I literally had those moments, and I'm sitting there going. So I remember I was playing the big crab strategy. I don't know if that's actually a strategy. I just named it.
No, it is.
But apparently, I was like, well, everyone was doing something, so I went, well, I'm just going to focus on this. And then I started doing something, and I went, wait a minute, that means if I do this, I can re-roll something, right? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, huh. And I'm sitting there, my mind just starts going from the next thing. And I think this cascading domino effect that you said, Matt, which I really do think it really allows you to open up your mind to that, which is that you're right. You start off with, I get, and Ralph, you said as well, like I finish this. Oh, I get to do this. But then after the first time, you're like, well, if I take the orange now, that means the next time my orange comes up, I'm going to get a free yellow. Yeah. And then I can... And you are right, though. You are at the mercy of the dice, but it does give you that very just like... Well, if I take something
now... It opens up those options for you.
Yeah.
So then it gives you the ability then to go, well, not so much pre-plan, but have a couple of things in the bank to go, okay, well, if this comes up, I can do this. If this comes up, I can go there. And you're not then... sitting there panicking when someone rolls the dice, you're like, well, now I literally have to take 1 point, and that's a waste of my go, right? Like, you can kind of almost back yourself into more points if you play it a little bit smarter than just, dumping whatever you've, been rolled. And I think the extra roll and the whatever that thing is.
Yeah, there's like power-ups in this game.
So the extra roll...
That actually makes the game. Like, without that, I reckon the game would be quite dull.
Yeah.
That is a really good mechanic, because then it also means that everyone's playing a very unique game. I think when we started, with the exception of Blake, I think we were almost on the same track, right? We were in greens, we were in purple, and a little bit of yellow. I think Blake went straight down the purple line,
track,
right?
yeah.
Like he hit it pretty hard. But at first I was like, oh, we're all playing the same game. And then very quickly it diverted and I had no idea who was going to win.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure I wasn't, but I thought he was going to win.
I thought you were going to come second, to be honest.
Well, so what the mechanic that Matt's referring to is the +1. So it gives you an extra action, and through unlocking different rows and stuff, you can unlock the ability to take an extra action. And that, you are right, that action itself is the moment where you're like, okay, I know that I can take any dice at any time after they're finished. And so if I hold on to this and I'm looking specifically for that thing, I'm going to take it, which can set off my cascade, right? And that's what happened at the end of the game with me. I was like, I needed Matt to roll a yellow 5 or a yellow wild. If it I had a backup plan, but I said if Matt can get that on his roll, then I've got a huge 4 or 5 chain of this, then this, then this, then this. But if he doesn't hit that, I've got my backup chain, which will be 3. So I was sitting there going, please, 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 please. It didn't come off. You didn't get it, but I still had that plan. I still had the alternative, but it was very simply just going, I'm just sitting here, and I did have a plan. And that's why I really like this game, which is there's enough meat here that at least for the first, I would say probably the first 10 plays, it's going to be different all the time. But then you'll start to figure out your own strategies. You'll start to go, I like going down this track because it gives me this. Or every time that I don't focus on orange, I always get screwed for some reason or something like that. And I think, the discovery aspect in this game as well is really good. And, so that's why I think from what makes a good gateway, I think discovery is one of those things, which is it's not discovering the game, it's discovering something about the game that you weren't prompted to. I don't need to tell you all the rules. I just explained to you what the +1 meant. But by round 3, you were all like, oh, I can bank these up and I can use 2 in one turn to have a really big turn if I can do that. And I think that was good. That was great. So
yeah, I got halfway through this game in particular, and I noticed I got a couple of foxes, and they multiply your lower score, essentially. So then I just shifted my game halfway through to start making sure I had basically the lowest score was the best out of the 5 different values I could boost up. And I think that kind of won me the game towards the end.
Yeah, because you had the biggest multiplier.
Yeah, so I kind of pivoted strategy halfway through. But this sort of game, the discovery of it, now that I've discovered that works, I might try a different strategy later to see, because I'm sure they all work. It's just it depends on what options you're left with, really, in a multiplayer game as well.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess discovery is one of the first things that I would think is a great game. I think this, but I guess I'll open up the tab to you guys. What is something you would say that for a gateway game or a game? I think we should also stipulate we're talking about a game that you've been able to convince someone to sit at the table and play something, right?
It's also important to think about who the audience is.
Yeah.
Right? Are you talking about your 16-year-old cousin, or are you talking about your mum or your grandma, right? Who are you actually trying to get to play with you? Because in this scenario, we're all on the same wavelength about this is going to be fun to learn something new.
Yep.
But how do you when we talk about a gateway game, are we discussing it in terms of bringing people who aren't really familiar with the world of board games or still in that Monopoly mindset?
I would think so. I think that's what I think we would determine as a gateway game. Is more so this is a game that opens you up to the fact that playing games is more than just rolling and moving a piece. And that's why I asked the question of you guys of what do you think is something that you would say you look at a game and go, that is a gateway game. And what is that something? For me, like I said, it's discovery. Something simple enough that you can discover something about the game. Yeah. But what's something that you would put out there? I
would say it definitely needs to be quick to teach and quick to learn. So there's a lot of games that I consider to be quite simple, but they're not quick. They're not like we keep circling back to Twilight Imperium. The actual mechanics are basic, but it's definitely not a gateway. you would definitely not show your
that
your
10-hour
mum that game.
gateway game that we like to play.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
it needs to be simple and it needs to be fun to play, so that way you can keep the person engaged with you to actually keep playing with you.
I think that's a great point, though. I think simple to learn, simple to teach is also very important. I mean, we know of it, and anyone who knows my collection knows of it. But the award that's given out every year, the Spiel des Jahres Award. And now that's 3 fancy German words I've just put next
It's
to each other.
basically like the Oscars for board games.
Yeah, but do you know what the criteria to win that award is, though? It is
think-
the best game that is the simplest to teach. Like, you have to have a rule book that's under 3 or 4 pages. It has to be able to be taught within 5 minutes, and you have to be able to play that game within a certain time limit. So not every game qualifies. It doesn't have to play within a time limit, but you have to be able to teach it to someone and have them playing within a time limit.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why the games that win it are never the best game.
Yeah.
They're not the best game of the year. They're the best game that was the easiest to teach. And that's why whenever I say anyone, look for that red pawn symbol, the little circle head with the triangle body. When you see that, you know that you're in for at least a game that is easy to teach. And then games out there such as Just One have won it, Camel Cup, Dominion have won it. The Mind, I don't think the Mind won it.
The Mind was definitely a finalist.
It was a finalist. King Domino has won it. There's a lot of these games out there that have won this game, won this award. And specifically, that is why the community realizes that is something, you're right, that we have to acknowledge. Like, once someone has committed themselves to playing a game at our table, if they're not in this hobby, we have to make sure that
It's hard to get them back.
It's hard to get them back. You're right.
Because I'll tell you what, board gamings are quite intimidating.
Yeah.
I went to a board game convention and I was in my little cubby hole of a table and we played our game, but then I walked around the 10, 12 other tables and I didn't recognize any other game that the people were playing. And yeah, they looked pretty, they looked interesting, but I had no clue what they were all yelling about at the table. So yeah, just finding those simple games and someone who's willing to teach you was quite amazing.
What do you reckon it is about those games? Why do you reckon they are intimidating though? I generally open this up to the table. Like, what is it about seeing bits at a table that makes people can kind of clam up? Like, what do you reckon?
I would say like just you're overstimulated because you're looking at everything all at once.
Well, that's it, and that sort of leads into what I was going to say. Is what makes a good gateway game is the setup of the game. And I've been watching a few things from Shut Up and Sit Down, and they had a lot of these games, and that's something that they talked about, how you can set up a game. And the game we talked about last week, Ticket to Ride, that's a great gateway game, but even that one, you've got train pieces everywhere, you've got cards, you've got the big board, you've got these interconnected board, but you've got this game that's literally, you open the box is tiny, and fit anywhere on your shelf, and you pull out 6 pieces of dice, you get 1 piece of paper each, a pen, and that's it. You're ready to go.
Well, like you think about the Ganz Schon Clever, which is what you said, right? It's literally, but think about the box is even too big. The box is as big as it is to house the paper that you write on, right? It's 6 dice and this pad of paper, to the point where they have made the box. It has like a little petri dish thing, like a little plate printed on the cardboard. So it's like, okay, it actually the box doubles as the dice that the inactive players can use, sits on the middle of the board game, the box, right? And like, if this is the small box, and you're right, which is, yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, setting up a game, if people don't understand game mechanics, what they first see, if they see a game that's larger than a Monopoly board, like, and we use Monopoly as the kind of standard, because like Monopoly generally takes about 90
But everyone knows what that looks like.
Yeah, we all know what it looks like, right? And you go, well, that's going to take me an hour or 90 minutes to 2 hours at minimum to play. There's going to be money involved and stuff, and I whip out Ticket to Ride, and that board is bigger. You're right, there's bigger, then I give you 86 train pieces, or whatever the amount of trains is, and then I'm just like, okay. And then you're looking at this going, this is huge. But the actual game is just take a couple of cards, put the cards down, and put some trains on the appropriate colour train track. That's it. You didn't put your choo-choos down. It's just...
And I find that one of the hardest steps is that initial hurdle of, like you said, convincing someone to actually play the game. And if they see you pulling pieces upon pieces left and right, And it's like Ralph was saying with TI4, it doesn't matter how easy the actual game is. It's that initial hurdle to get into the game and get them playing, and that's the biggest hurdle you got to get past.
You've also got, like, in those, I'm sure if you're walking around hearing people shout stuff out, if you don't know the terminology they're shouting out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm moving my farmer onto the battleship, right? Like, is that good? Is that bad? How many battleships do you, like, there are so many questions because it's just nomenclature about the game.
Yep.
Sheep
that
for
unless you're really into it, you that's a big hurdle.
That's it.
And
that was going to be my second point about a gateway game. A clear and defined goal, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
It's like you say, if you're moving farmers onto battleships and that gives you 5 points, but those aren't victory points. Those are just points for you to spend, and
yeah,
your
that's right.
actual
But only
victory
in the
points
third
are going
round
to
of
be
every turn, like fucking hell.
And only if Austria controls Western Germany.
Yeah, that's right. And also
In the third moon phase.
Unless you have an ogre, and then they're worth double the points. Why? What the fuck?
So when I teach games, I have been guilty of not saying how do you win or what's the point of this. That's something I really try and drive home to say. We're playing this game. How you win? Most points, like that sort of thing.
Yeah,
And coming back to what is this thing called?
That's
Ganz
pretty
Schon
clever. That's pretty clever.
Like, there is nothing that's unfamiliar. We're dealing with colours. We're dealing with numbers. That's it, right?
And dice.
There's no talking about anything specific, any setting or anything like that. I also think it's important to have a game, and this is obviously coming from the guy who doesn't win games, but to have a game where if you lose, you haven't felt like you've wasted your hour.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
And there are a lot of games where you can jump into, give it your best, get absolutely murdered, and walk away going, I did not enjoy spending that time at all.
I think, that's
like,
respecting
if it's not a level
your time,
playing field,
Yeah.
I'm okay to lose that game because it was fun to get to the loss, right? It wasn't actually about the win at all. It's cool. This is really cool to, as you said, unravel the bits as you go, learn the game, have a bit of fun, see other people's strategies. But I didn't get to the end going, oh, motherfucker.
Well, the guy who actually invented Catan and made Catan, he actually just wanted a game where he can play with his sons and it didn't end in an argument. He actually just wanted to have a good time with his kids. So that's why he made that, which is really cool.
That's essentially what board gaming is for me. Board gaming is twofold for me. The first is that I do like to exercise that thinking part of my brain. And I will admit, like, I'm a gamer. I like playing games. I like finding strategies. But more importantly, it's the getting people around the table and sharing an experience, which we kind of talked on yesterday, but it's like we shared this experience, even though we were kind of, when we played Ganz Schon Clever, we were all kind of playing our own sort of little game, but it was a shared experience. And we all had that moment of, at the exact same time in the third round, everyone went, oh no! And everyone had that moment, and then if you didn't have that moment, you laughed, because you're like, aha, you're having a hard decision. Oh, that must suck. And then literally the next turn, oh no, it's my go to do it. And you had the exact same thing. And I think that for me, the respecting of someone's time is such a hard thing to nail down, which is, you're right, which is that if you can come out of a game, even if you lost and you felt like
You had a good time.
I had a good time, it wasn't the game's fault. It was, I made some dumb decisions. I should have done that. And that is the pure sign of, I think, and look, I do believe
but
that.
There are other games like Love Letter, right? Which Nee suggested we should have played tonight as well.
Which we will be playing in a
Love
future
that
episode.
But I think that's a game which kind of straddles being a gateway game, because once again, you can spend your time having a great time with Love Letter, or you could spend your time just getting the worst combo of cards every time, sitting there with the princess in your hand. I can't get rid of this bitch. And
I think,
unlike, if you're a new person to those games, you could very quickly go, oh, yeah, I don't like that one, because I didn't feel like I was in control. Whereas something like this game tonight, I felt like there was still a level of autonomy that I had to play my own game and just explore it without it being make or break. It's not like there was a move I went, well, that lost me the game doing that.
Well, that's it. And even though, because I think on the back of the page they've got
like a score guideline.
Score guidelines for solo play. And Nee read them out, a sort of couple of scores. If you're in this range, this is, these are the sort of top bracket scores. these are sort of the lower bracket scores. So even at the end of the game, when Ralph took the win, and I was just proud. I'm looking at the scorecard, and I'm not down the bottom of that score brackets. I've actually, it was more of an achievement myself. It's like that you can play that.
You can be proud
of that. Again, like he said, it's around the table. We all have a bit of the moments, and there's moments, and it was a lot of fun. It was
definitely exciting. Like, I ended this game just hoping Matt on the last turn rolled a 2, and then if it did, I would have really killed it on the score even more. But
I wanted to
fight.
I
needed Matt to roll a 10 in blue and yellow. And
no one told me what they wanted, right? Everyone kept it to themselves, and so none of you got it what they wanted.
Exactly right.
And I think the sign of a good gateway game is when it's over, you're not exhausted, and you're actually excited at the prospect of playing another round. It doesn't have to be straight away, but maybe another day or something.
Yeah, if it came out again,
and you'll be more than happy to play it. And even the person that you showed it to is not necessarily into these type of games, they'll be happy to give it another go.
Yeah, and I think as well, something that we didn't, which you kind of touched on, Matt, as well, but something that I think is underrated is the art as well. Like we talked about Hunter Teutonica last week, but from functionally, I was thinking.
You talked about it.
Well, but I was thinking about this through the week, which is that it does look bland. But I was thinking about this through the week, but it looks bland for the purposes of actual functionality from the gameplay's perspective, because your player pieces need to stand out on the board, and that's what makes that game sing. Is that you can instantly look out, and so when you look at the game, it doesn't look nice. But for the purposes of a gateway game, Ralph and I last night we played Marvel Champions.
Marvel Champions, yeah.
And that is not a gateway game, right? It's not. However, the art style alone could pull in a non-gamer purely based on the fact that it is Marvel. And you could drop down the basic person in front of them and say, okay, who's your favorite superhero? You like Iron Man? Great, cool, bang, I'm going to drop Iron Man right in front of you, take care of all the setup, and I'm going to take care of everything for you, and you're going to play as Iron Man, and you're going to be doing damage to Thanos or to Ultron we were last night.
So what's really cool about Iron Man, the actual mechanic of how he plays is he has to assemble his suit before he goes to battle. So even giving a new player Iron Man, you can literally just say, all right, build your suit. That's your goal. At least for the first half of the game.
And that game last night, even though I was learning on the fly, I honestly did feel like so long as the theme matched what they liked, you could get them into it.
All right, and also what you're just saying there, Anth, is actually theme plays a big part in actually introducing a new game to people as well. So Ganz Schon Clever, there's not really a theme to it, but Ticket to Ride is train and route building. If people like trains and bright colors, it's typically going to be their thing.
Well, there's actually starting to, I mean, you think about it, there's actually starting to be a lot more game tie-ins with well-known properties.
Yep.
Like, some board games are their own thing. I mean, Settlers of Catan is its own thing, and it is something, right?
Yeah.
But now you're starting to get board games that are now pulling from video games. We have had Dead by Daylight, which, Blake, you backed on Kickstarter, which... welcome to the club. We're sorry that you're here. But
sorry about that hole in the bottom of your wallet.
But there was also the Sniper Elite board game. There was, there have been other ones that have now come out, and we're now starting to see.
Actually,
sorry.
There's a fantastic movie from the 80s, I believe, called The Thing.
Yeah.
And the board game of it sounds like it's right up my alley, which is literally, it's kind of semi-co-op where, I don't know, have you guys seen the movie?
Yeah, look, I've seen all the clips of it.
For those that haven't, they're basically scientists at a research post in Antarctica, and basically one guy is a demon that's kind of in their camp, and when the demon kills you, he actually just sort of takes over your body and becomes your form, and he can only kill other people in the outpost if they're alone. So in the board game, you actually play with the 6 other people at the table. Everyone's a scientist, and one person is the demon, so there's a bit of social deduction. But if you're ever alone in the room with the demon, they can overtake you, and it all happens with cards secretly, so you never know who's really human or not. So
I mean, the other biggest
it's a cool theme tie-in.
Sounds a lot like Among Us on the.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it sounds great. It also reminds me of the other big one, Nemesis.
Yes.
Which is, even though it's not it's not titled it. It's essentially Aliens, the board game.
Yeah.
It's like you're all trying to get off the ship, and there's an alien walking around, but then you also have things. So it's like games are now starting to pull from other popular media.
You know what?
For a whole bunch of different things.
You can circle that back to Monopoly, who branded themselves and said, "Cool, different cities can be, have your own Monopoly board," and then all of a sudden they went, "Okay, cool, different properties, right?"
Everyone
there's
gets
the
your
Simpsons one. Then there was. But
you know what's even
how many
funny?
different variations of it's still the same game. Right? The game never changes.
I went to a morning tea breakfast in Penrith, and there's Penrith Monopoly.
I think they actually brought out a very limited edition of Camden.
Did they?
It wouldn't surprise
Really?
me if there's
What's
literally if
the
Mattel's
Penrith
like,
one? Is it just Panthers, not Panthers?
Well, there is.
More expensive, not Panthers. Go to Panthers. All right.
Go to jail, knock out 2 teeth.
Ice Sky is there now. The driving range, the pokies, the field. Yeah, but I think it wouldn't surprise me if Mattel are just like submit us your things and we'll make you your own custom board or something like that. Wouldn't surprise
It's
me.
made their company, $1 billion company, and they didn't have to change their base game. So it's a pretty smart marketing ploy. Really.
Yeah.
I'm convinced people just collect those type of games and never play
Jane's
them.
got every single Star
Oh, yeah?
Wars version of it, right? And
How
there's-
many Star Wars versions?
I think there's
Too
four,
many.
I think there's 4 or 5 of
I've
them.
got the Phantom Menace one actually.
Yeah.
If you're missing it.
No, I think she's got them all. Don't worry.
Okay.
But yeah, and that's the thing. Like the idea of like your property being actually recognizable is something that can help get people into a game. Now, it won't work for everything, right? It's not going to obviously work, but specifically with Marvel Champions last night, there's also now another version called Marvel United. I haven't played it yet, but it's got the Marvel characters designed with the chibi art, like the small Japanese, like a chibi art is like where they're like, the small cutesy big head small body art sort of thing, right? And it's designed in a specific
Kind of
way
like
to
those
look
pop head.
yeah, kind of like it's kind of that. So like you look at a lot of these things and like a lot of them, some games can actually be used if you say to them, hey, I know you like Marvel, therefore let's try this game, right? And so long as then the feeling of the game would give you the feeling of playing as Spider-Man or like for example, last night I played Quicksilver, and my whole character's thing was I actually got to do multiple actions per turn. Like normally you can only hit or fight once a turn. My character was all about I can hit once, then because I'm quick, I get to hit again. But some of my cards were literally, ready up and hit a third time. So I felt like Quicksilver, he's literally the guy, he doesn't hit hard, but he hits a lot. So it's like I can go wham. And if I can combo this correctly, I could get myself to a point where I'm really fast and really hitting hard and go bam, bam, bam. Now, we lost the game. But we were pretty close to getting in the end.
Pretty mean at introducing me to it because we versed like a pretty tough boss.
We nearly beat him. I was okay with it. It was fine.
But Marvel Champions, I love Marvel Champions. I own a lot of the content and I've played so many games. It's actually a really great solo game as well, and I can play it in half an hour if I'm working from home on a lunch break or something. But it's great playing with 2 or 3 other people as well, and it really captures the feeling of being that particular superhero. The villains are great too, but you don't really play with the villain. They just attack you and stuff happens. But Doctor Strange, aside from doing normal attacks, you can do spells and help your other characters out. Like there's a lot of interesting mechanics and they all feel very different to each other, which is why I love it. But I feel like board games using intellectual property is a bit of a double-edged sword.
Can be, yeah.
So there's one of my first actual board games that I purchased was Zombicide, which is essentially where everyone is on the same team, you're all survivors, and you've got to survive a zombie horde is a very baseline what it is. But now they released Marvel Zombicide on Kickstarter, which is coming out, I think, late this year, being actually shipped to people. But I looked at it, I didn't back it, because it kind of just felt like it was Zombicide, but they just cashed in with Marvel characters.
I will say the one that I was looking at that I'm very disappointed I didn't back was Marvel Dice Throne. And Dice Throne is a game which I've actually got in my back. I've got 4 different characters, but basically the idea is a battle royale.
The one that Bren got?
No, it's a different one. But the idea of this one is you take a character, each character is their own separate thing, and you have a deck, and then you're just going to try and kill each other. Last one standing is the winner. And in Kickstarter, Marvel, they decided that they were bringing out Marvel Dice Throne. So then exact same setup, just with Marvel characters and stuff. And I was like, that one works for me because it's like you want to play the character. And I think this is where we start coming back, nearly coming full circle, which is that for me, the board games, these shared experiences, these feelings, right? Like, what do board games mean, right, to us and stuff like that? Whereas, like, that shared experience, if I'm playing Spider-Man and Blake's playing Iron Man and you're Wonder Woman and Matt's, Doctor Strange, we get our own individual feeling, but we also get that feeling of, all right, we're going to pile on Nebo right now. It's like, Spider-Man's going to be taken down, right? We get this, and it really opens up the door to something that you don't normally get. Like, you don't get it's also very insular in a weird way. Like, it's unique to you. Like, even though the game has been played by many other people, maybe in the same way, the way that the game gets played is unique to you. You solely get this experience, and the people who were there sharing that experience with you, and no one else had that experience,
So I played a game of Hail Hydra, which is essentially, for those board gamers out there, the Marvel version of the Resistance and Avalon. But what's really cool is everyone is Spider-Man, Superman, not Superman, but it's Marvel. But and that has a one-time powerful ability. So it's the Resistance, but everyone has that one-time super special thing that happens. So it's really cool like that.
I mean, well, I guess, yeah, I mean, that was like, that Marvel Champions, as we say, it's now been out for about 3 years. It came out about 2019. So it releases new superheroes as Fantasy Flight does. Fantasy Flight, the publishers, they kind of just produce new content every so often. They've done, this is not the first time they've done that. They do it with like the Arkham Horror card game, where they release the packs. And
so they do them in cycles. So each cycle, I think, is like 6 or so heroes, and they generally release one mini expansion every 3 months as well. So the latest one that's coming out is actually the X-Men one, so they're actually shifting to that, and pretty excited for it. You get to play as Wolverine and Cyclops and things like that, so pretty keen for that, but I'm still a bit behind. I've purchased a lot of Marvel Champions, but not everything, so but yeah, I'm pretty excited to hit that. But Marvel Champions is a game that I will pretty much show every Marvel love of a person, really. I'm glad you showed me. I really enjoyed it. It's a pretty great game, and once you have your first game of it, you dive into the deck construction, where you realize, oh no, that card's shit, I'm not going to take that in, and things like that. So really, it's a game where you put the best cards in the deck before you play, and then you just have fun playing out and see how that deck actually plays against the villain.
So that might be my gateway into actually deck builders, because I don't like deck builders usually. But that's usually because I'm sitting there going, I've got the petrified zombie and I've got the mauler. I don't know, are these good? Are they not good? I don't know what else is out there.
This is why I think we need to play Dominion. I think we need to play that one because the names of the cards, especially when you're playing the very beginner game of Dominion, is like the market. What does the market do? Just get you 1 action, 1 gold, and 1 buy.
And 1 card, I think.
So yeah,
the festival's
yeah,
2
but
cards,
that's it. It's like we're not playing like the petrified zombie and Aquas, the water mage, right? It's not like not. It's just like this is the market.
What's the deck builder that's what's your big one?
Dominion. That's the Dead Reckoning.
Is that a deck
pirate one? Which one?
The one that Tom and George love playing.
Oh, Millennium Blade.
Yeah, you end up with bloody hands.
Which Blake also loves playing that one, I think.
I can't stand that game.
It's
just too much.
It's the one, so for those.
And then you find out that Nee left half the cards in the box. You're like, really? There's more?
A deck builder where you leave the cards.
Try like 3/4 of the cards after all the, like, kickstart the collusion expansion.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, Millennium Blades is the. We're going to pretend we're anime Yu-Gi-Oh card protagonists, but you build your thing in real time, and then we're going to play it out. And the main rule, which I do love and I hate it, but the main rule is no take backsies. So when you get to the tournament phase, the rulebook specifically says, if you stuffed up, too bad, right? That's the point. It's a real-time game. That's definitely not a gateway game, but it is certainly. But that does evoke the feeling, though.
As I said, maybe this Marvel one is my gateway into that kind of game strategy.
Maybe. Well, that's the thing, because like I played it yesterday when we played it with Ralph. I just played with the base set.
I think as well, right? With the deck builders, like I missed in growing up. I missed the Pokemon phase. There were no real card trader games like in the playground that I got through, right? Whereas Tom was big in Pokemon. You guys,
He was big into Yu-Gi-Oh.
And
I
what's
loved
the other one?
Yu-Gi-Oh.
There's
I
another
played
thing.
Magic. I played a lot of Magic.
Yeah, like Magic was a huge. Like there were a couple of people who played Magic in my grade, but it really wasn't. Like there weren't that IP wasn't really around for me. So I think that's why I'm kind of behind the eight ball.
I think you'll quite like Marvel Champions, Matt. The deck construction is very different from deck building, but it does play very similar to Magic, where you're tapping cards and getting powerful abilities with it. So there are those combos in the game.
And you have to spend cards to play other cards, so you have to make
So there are some tough decisions to be made during the game. Even like just picking of what, so you can be in hero form where you attack the villain and the villain attacks you, or you can be in alter ego like a civilian, where the villain doesn't attack you and you can heal up a bit. However, the villain will start to speed towards the end game a bit quicker.
Because you're essentially not battling him, so he's getting his scheme is moving along because you're not there to stop him. So
so it's quite an interesting game. So yeah, definitely be happy to show you sometime. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think look, we've kind of circled around quite a lot of things that we really like out of a gateway game, which is like simple. Simple enough. It allows people to like discovery is also another way of saying allows people to feel smart. Like it allows them to like, oh, if I do this, I can do that. Right?
I think you're getting that endorphin where you're just you're being rewarded all that time, and it's a good feeling.
Yeah, I think also
it's a good dopamine hit.
Yeah, being simple enough, having a nice enough look, like the artwork does matter for getting people in. Not being too big is another one. Although I will say though, once people kind of get over that hurdle of like, oh, this game is too big, that very quickly opens the door for so much stuff. You're like, oh, this looks fun because once you get over the idea of size, I like the like this is something that is underrated with board games. I think is the tactility of picking up the dice and rolling the dice, or picking up the horse, or like it's something as simple as like in Monopoly, picking up the car and pretending it's a car going and drive. Like you pick up and you play with the money. You pick up and you play with the pieces.
And I was thinking about that concept on the way home last week after we played it on Tabletop Simulator online, and I think that's why. Despite the fact that it's got you can play almost anything on it, but I think that's why that application is so popular compared to games that come out and say, oh, we've got an online version of this, you can play this online on a website. It's the fact that you can the 3D. It's like you're sitting at the table. You're using.
You've
mouse.
actually got to pick the card up.
You got to pick the piece up, and it gives you. It's not quite there. It's the same as sitting at the table, but it's real enough to emulate that feeling.
That's why Board Game Arena
very very sterile and away from you.
It's why I love Board Game Arena, but I will admit it does you lose even more of that tactility. I love being able to go into BGA and it's going, I'm going to do this, and this, and I'm going to play a game and it's great. I really love that. But then there are times where you're just like, I'm playing Seven Wonders Duel, or I'm like, I think I talked about this last week, but Res Arcana, which is a game that Ralph owns. I played it by myself, learnt the game, played it, didn't understand it. And it wasn't until I got it in front of me and I was holding the cards and looking at things and holding it that all of a sudden it clicked. And I went, oh! And I won this game, and Ralph was like, you did really well. And I went, I'm surprised it as well. And I actually enjoyed that. And that's the thing, this is why we talked about it, like when you talked about Ralph, when you said when you're doing the teach, the first thing I do, I don't actually say how you're going to win. I throw pieces at people and say, hey, can you shuffle the deck for me? Or, hey, can you take this and just give them pieces so they can actually go, oh, what's this? And start playing with it. And then you launch into we are this and this is how you win. And I'll admit that it is hard sometimes. Those teachers are really hard. But
it makes me wonder as well, coming back to that bloody Italian thing we played, like if it wasn't just a printed version, if we had an actual well-made game in front of us, would we have been as silly with that as we were, right? I think we did that to cope with the fact that it was literally 1 centimetre squares. If I was going, what the hell is this?
I don't know, maybe
make sure you don't have sweaty hands or the game will disintegrate in front of you.
What if we actually had 3D printed palazzos in front of us? We actually had to drop little cubes into their places. Like you get that. How
freshly made cupcakes coming every day.
Look, I think we're having there's some really interesting things here about it. I mean, look, Ganz Schon Clever, I think we can all agree is, if you're looking for a really good, simple game, this is one to certainly look at. It's relatively cheap too. I mean, I picked this up for about $35. So relatively cheap.
And it's end of financial year right now, so you might be able to get it even cheaper.
That's 35 Australian dollars as well. So if you're listening to this overseas and you happen to be, that's even cheaper for you.
The app's $5.
There you go. Play on your iPhone for $5. There you go.
Yeah, and it looks like it plays really well. I haven't done it yet, but I definitely will be playing a few more games on the mobile and the iPad.
Yeah. But look, we're going to wind up, I think, the discussion of what makes a good gateway game because.
Well, do you want to summarize it first, just to?
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to think.
Points,
I think that's what I think. Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of do this, which is. We obviously agree that a gateway game needs to be simple and easy to learn and easy to play.
You need to be constantly rewarded by the discovery of things and getting rewards during the game as well.
The game would need to, as Matt said, would have to respect your time or not waste your time.
You just don't want it to punish you. That's the thing.
Yeah. You want to have a good time either way.
That's right.
Yeah. And
it needs to look accessible. So I think that mental hurdle is the big.
I think that's a great way of actually putting it. Looking accessible is a great way of putting it, I would say. Because if it doesn't look it, or it doesn't look like, it looks like I'm about to have a hard time, the wall goes straight up for new people.
Yeah, and it needs to be look interesting as well, just to actually keep people engaged with it too.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's so much more we can talk about this subject as well, but if we do, we'll be here all night. But look, Ralph, I know you've got it sitting in front of you and we wanted to have a chat about it. Do you want to have a chat about what's sitting in front of you at the moment?
That's entirely up to you.
Well, mate, look, he wanted to have a chat about it and I would love to have a look about it as well because you've got a game sitting in front of you. What is it and what are we, it looks, speaking of it looking accessible, I'm seeing purple and I'm seeing red, so it looks pretty good from over here. So I like the look of it. So
so I thought, we're actually filming this today when they released the James Webb Telescope picture, and I thought, why not review a space game where we're in the galaxy? So let's do it.
Tie-ins.
Awesome. That was a nice little segue.
What is the name of this game?
This game is called Galaxy Trucker. And think Guardians of the Galaxy for those Marvel fans. And you're Star-Lord, and you're in the scrapyard, and you're trying to find the best parts for your ship. Because that's what you'll be doing in this game. There's going to be a massive pile of little tiles face down, just black, like it's in space. And what you're going to do on your turn, you actually have a board in front of you, and you're going to be building a spaceship. And the way you do that is, this is all real time. Everyone just grabs one tile, face down, brings it back to their board, and only when your hand is on top of your board, you flip that tile over, and you can see what that part is. And then you can choose to either put that part on your ship and it's stuck there, or you can put it back in the middle face up and anyone else can grab it. So you're constantly, all 4 players, it's up to 4, are constantly grabbing tiles, taking a look, putting it back, and so on and so forth, just trying to build the best ship.
Right.
Now, there is no time limit. You can take as much time as you want. However, as soon as someone's finished building their ship, they then flip an egg timer, which I think is like 2 minutes long. And then if they flip it again, then you need to be finished with building your ship.
Right. Okay. So there's a bit of real time pressure there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Not taking too long, but also making sure that you've got a good ship.
Yeah, and all the parts are pretty much things that you expect on a ship, like rockets to actually propel you forward, like your crew quarters for your little men to live in. There's going to be guns because in space you're going to have to shoot some stuff like pirates and things like that. So
we've all been to space.
Yeah.
I mean,
and in space,
we understand space. Don't worry.
you're going to find some space junk there as well, and some of it could be valuable. Right. So you want to basically have some storage quarters on your ship as well to actually put your stuff in.
SS Voyager? What junk is this?
Worthless crap.
So that's actually like the first part of the game.
Right.
The second part of the game is actually going on the adventure with your ship. Now, your player mat actually is like a little grid. So you have numbers 4 to 10 on the top and pretty much on the side. So it's kind of like a Microsoft Excel a little bit. And you might discover a meteor swarm, and then you roll some dice, and then like meteors can come from the top or to the left and things like that, and they can hit parts of your ship. And some of the parts, that not every part connects to a part as well, but some of the parts, if you leave an exposed coil on the side of your ship where a meteor is going to hit you, you're actually going to lose that part of the ship. And if that is holding like storage quarters, which has some valuable cargo in, you lose that as well. So stuff happens during the game, and it's funny because you might build a ship that's fine with it, but you might see my ship and I just lose half of it. And that's where it starts to get fun, because you start seeing your friends' ships just blowing up.
Why did I have only one link connecting my living quarters, my O2 tank,
Yeah, because like you're
and the bathroom? Where am I going to wee now?
Put all the fuel storage on the outside. That was such a dumb idea.
So like you can't build the perfect ship. No one can, because you're in that little bit of a time pressure, as well as once you put a piece down, it's locked in. So
Right.
you kind of do get stuck, and it's a bit of a luck thing as to where the dice will actually send the meteor swarm as well.
Right.
So you might actually find an abandoned station, and if you have 6 crew members or 3 or whatever the card says, you can go on there and pick up some valuable cargo as well. And essentially, to win the game is the most points win. So you get points by the most cargo you have, how far forward your ship is, like how fast it is as well, and things like that. So you might find an abandoned station that's worth 6 cents is the currency of this game. You might send crew to board another ship and go back to the spaceport and sell it for money and things like that. So, well, you might just get attacked by pirates and you've got to fight them off.
That's a fine cargo hold you got there, Matt. Be a shame if anything were to happen to it. Yeah, so look, why would it looks great? I mean, actually, you've got the board in front of us here, and it looks really cool. So
I did, because I wanted to show you guys what the board is. So there's 3 stages to this game. So stage 1, you're building a little ship, and then stage 2, you're building one that's pretty much double the size.
Yeah.
And then the last rounds of the game, so you're going to go on 3 adventures and build 3 different spaceships. It's actually triple the size of your first one.
Cool.
So
yeah,
so building a good ship, especially towards the end of the game, the cargo is worth more. You get more points, you get more multipliers and more combos. But it's actually really fun just building the ship, because that's literally half the game. And then you just watch whatever happens to your ship. So it really is just nonsense fun when you see another player's ship just blow up.
how long does it play?
The box says 30 minutes, but I never see any box tell you the true time it plays.
Yeah, exactly.
At least half hour.
I would say it plays in an hour at 4 players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we got an hour before.
With the 3 rounds, I'd imagine like it'd be a good learning curve as well. Like you've got a chance to have your dud round right up front and go, oh, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, exactly
That's
right.
That's
yeah.
it. Over the 3 rounds, you're not locked. You make a crap ship with some serious flaws. You're not stuck with that. That's not your whole game gone in that building phase. Straight
And that
up.
loops back into the not time wasted there, because you at least have your own chances to improve your own skills before you get to the end of the game.
Who do you think this game would be for, Ralph? Like I look at this and go, this isn't a gateway game, but part of me goes, oh, but it could be, like, because it's just flipping tiles. But I think that from the look of the tiles, though, the artwork, it won't bring people in here. I don't think.
The artwork is quite comical, I'd say. It's kind of like the Jetsons back in the day.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's a gateway game, but I have shown this to brand new players to board games that are keen to give it a go. Because as soon as I pitched the theme of it, where I said, we're just in space, we're got to build a ship from junk, and they were like, yeah, okay, that sounds interesting. And then I told them what the mechanic was of flipping the tiles, and they're like, oh, this sounds like fun. So it really depends on the person, but I wouldn't say it's a gateway game. No.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you were setting this up as well, though, like if you had all the tiles set out, it wouldn't look complicated.
No, it looks
As long as
messy.
everyone had their own little space, plus a board game, plus
Yeah.
meeples and God knows what else. So,
Well, what's really cool about this game is, like, there's no turns when you're building the ship, right? So I might want that rocket with a certain type of connection so it connects nicely and it doesn't leave my ship to be vulnerable. So I might wait for you guys to reveal it, put it back, and then I'll quickly snap it up.
Right.
So there's a little bit of that. And, there's that time where it's like, Matt's like, oh, I really need a battery because that's how you power up your shields or your weapons. And I'm like, I know where a battery is. I'm just going to put it in my ship so Matt doesn't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little things
what's
like
always
that.
me? Why me?
No, I'm sorry, man.
Well, look, if you didn't have the 3 hippie cards last week, we wouldn't be in this situation. Okay.
Just the foil. That's what I am. That's fine.
So this game initially came out, I think, in 2007.
Yeah, it's an old game now,
It's an
isn't
old game, but it has had a resurgence because the copy that I've got actually is a reprint that got released, I think, 2
Wasn't
years,
it?
2
It was
years
the 10-year
ago.
anniversary, wasn't it, or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So I had one game of this, absolutely loved it. It was on my mind for about 3 or 4 months, and then I finally picked it up.
Right.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So that is Galaxy Trucker.
Awesome.
Definitely looks like a lot of fun.
It does. I think we should play it. You want to play
I'm
it?
down. Absolutely.
What now?
Yeah, I think we should wrap this up because we're coming to the end of the episode. I think we should give it a go. What do you reckon?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. All right, good. I'm getting trepid. Yes. They're looking at me like.
I think when you're on the podcast, you have to say yes,
Well,
no
that's
matter
right.
what game it is.
You literally locked me in now, right? Like it's recorded.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. And that's so we're gonna go play some Galaxy Trucker with that. And so I think
Did you do it? That's what you did.
that's exactly what that is. All right. Well, anyway, that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. I think.
I think we'll spare the listeners our outro music again this week.
We actually have outro music.
We do have actual outro music. I'm not going to play it now because I'm going to have to sync it up, and I don't think I could do that. But from myself, Blake, Ralph, and Matt, thank you for listening to the Board Game Gateway podcast. You can find us at www.boardgamegateway.com. We have a Discord community, a Facebook group coming. Should be up by the time this podcast is out. Look, if you want to play some games, come hang out in Discord. We'd love to play some more and meet some of you guys in the community. So, look, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to your company next time. See ya. So, get out of here.
See you, everyone.
Well, that went by pretty well, don't you think?